Okay, Monday, November 20th, 2023. I've been back in Lviv for about 5 days. 6 days. 6 days. Tomorrow will be 1 week. It was quite a long trip. So I'll tell you, on this journey home, let me actually go the other way. I just take a new way home. So yeah, on this trip I saw 2 Elvis movies. One on the plane, it was the Elvis 2022 movie with Tom Hanks and Austin Butler. It was pretty good. It was from the perspective of his agent. And yeah, it really, I hadn't thought about Elvis in a long time. I mean, it used to be something that everyone would listen to. And, everyone was into it. Back in the 70s, 80s, I barely remembered as a kid, but it keeps resurging. Elvis resurges every once in a while. And so the other movie I saw, talking about the resurgence, we had a 2023 film called Priscilla that just came out when I was back in the US. It was like my last day. I went and saw it with my mom. And that was also pretty good. I'm just wondering why they didn't use Austin Butler to play Elvis in both movies. They could have probably been like James Cameron and, done a lot of overlapping scenes together, because they reenacted many actual parts of his life with the same costumes and, same things. But, yeah, it was, and I started listening to Elvis, watching his bios, everything like that, going down that Elvis rabbit hole. But I think I'm over it now, yeah. So yeah, Elvis is one of these things that just kind of creeps up on you every couple years. And I was even thinking about next trip I'll go and visit Graceland, but now that's even worn off. There's plenty of YouTube videos where people are walking through with the GoPro camera. So interesting enough. See, this mic is working. Yeah. So I'm on the phone right now using the microphone setup. So yeah, that was fun. Just looking back at that trip in the US, like I said, for me, the only problem I see in America, I mean, yeah, there are a lot of problems, but everything kind of roots to one big problem, and that's the food. The reason why I'm, coming, took 5 days off is it took a while to detox. This food they have in America. I mean, any restaurant food, any ready-made food in the supermarket, anything to go is just loaded with chemicals. And if you're not used to it, you feel it. It feels like a big rock in your stomach, and it slows you down. It just takes all your energy. I mean, you feel really tired and everything. And it's, I don't know, you eat a lot more. I mean, I don't eat such big meals here. You feel full eating a little bit of food, but over there the portions are big in the restaurants. But I was finishing everything. It was crazy, but and I was still hungry, but my stomach was like just too full to eat anymore, after a while. But I don't know, there's something really going on with the food in America. It's to me, if they solve the food, if they can regulate the food the way they regulate the roads, with speed limits, or they regulate alcohol, or the drinking age, or regulate cigarettes with secondhand smoke, indoor outdoor smoking, taxes, age limits, you name it. And it varies by state to state. In New York, cigarettes are a lot more expensive than they are in Kentucky. If they can do that with the food. I mean, New York had started by putting calories on the menu, but I think they've got to tax certain core ingredients like the sugar, the salt, fat content. They got to tax bacon, these kind of like luxury foods. We weren't eating like this 100 years ago. Everyone's like, oh, that's part of American culture. It really is not. American culture was actually about hunting and, locally grown foods. It's like in America, though, everything is about efficiency, right? Efficiency trumps everything, even at the expense of humanity. So we're so efficient with the food, and it's so cheap. And believe me, even with food inflation, food is cheap in America when you compare it to the income. And it's definitely cheaper now than it ever was relative to income, especially when you look at the portion sizes. I mean, nobody's starving in America. And, you know, when people say, oh, you know, I got to feed my family or I'm going to go hungry, that's all just BS. Everybody's eating plenty well. Even homeless people are eating really well. And if they're not, it's because they don't want to. There's plenty of food everywhere. They're almost throwing it away, giving it away. But they got to do something about the nutrition so that when you actually eat something, you're getting something out of it. And if they can fix that, and we can get our calories down to, like, instead of like 3,700 low quality calories like we're getting a day in America, average American, I was doing some research, eats 3,700, even up to 4,000 low quality calories every day, like pizza, burgers. You know, there's just nothing in it except it just fills a void in your stomach, and then you're hungry again because your body is searching for nutrients. It passes through all that food, stores it up as fat, and it's waiting for nutrients. And if they could fix that so we're down to like somewhere between 1,600 and 2,500 calories a day, that's where we should be, depending on, you know, your age and your, you know, male, female, active, inactive, somewhere between there. If we do that and Americans become like the same shape they were in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, you know, and we have a sports culture, revive that, where everyone's outside playing basketball and, you know, going for walks and all this kind of thing, the self-awareness will go up. And I think people will naturally become more environmental aware. Because, you know, when you're outdoors and you're, you know, doing sports and you're self-aware, you know, I mean, then you become more aware of the environment around you. You know, you're not so insulated. And then people will demand, you know, the marketplace. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's where it would start. I mean, I would like to see the government give it a push. People would demand housing that's walking distance to the supermarket, walking distance to the office parks, so they're not like living in their car all the time. Because as you become more fit, you want to do more activity. Like I tell people in America, I was telling people when I was living there, when I was back in the U.S., I was driving 15 hours a week, getting to and from work. You know, 45 minutes each way when you count door-to-door time, you know, looking for a parking space. The actual commute was 25 minutes, but then you got to add, you know, like getting to the car, warming the car up, cleaning the car, parking the car. You know, it's like 45 minutes, so that's like an hour and a half, you know, a day, and then there's all this other driving around to the gym, driving around the supermarket. So it's like 10, 15 hours a week. You know, and if you walk 10, 15 hours a week, you can walk conservatively 3 or 4 miles an hour. You're walking 30, 40, you know, so let's say, yeah, you could conservatively walk like 30 to 40 miles a week just walking around if you spent that same time walking. You know, granted, you probably still have to, you know, put on your clothes and all this. But, you know, if people demanded this and everyone started walking, you know, 10, 15 hours a week instead of driving 10, 15 hours a week, Americans would lose weight, they would be fit, they would become self-aware, they would just demand a different kind of lifestyle. You know, just everything would change. We would be back to where we were in the good old days, you know, except minus the segregation and, you know, minus the lead paint and minus the all these other things like C8, you know, these super molecules that DuPont used to dump into our water supply. So, you know, we would be in a really good position. So really, I don't know, I wish America could attack obesity like they attack COVID. I know I've been saying this in so many videos, but it's just something it just seems like such an easy fix. And, you know, America could be like 3 times what it is now. You know, I mean, it's already way ahead. It's still the greatest nation on earth, the biggest economy, the most powerful military. It could even be 3 times more if, you know, instead of having 70% of the people overweight, we had 70% of the people physically fit, you know, 70, 80%. And it was just, you know, the whole system was built around this to make it an incentive. You know, I mean, breaking up food monopolies, you know, giving incentive to people. You know, the McDonald's would start selling like proper healthy food. You know, they could be actually the purveyors of this instead of selling us poison. I don't know, it's just one of the reflections I have. I mean, when I was there, it just seemed like everything else was fine. You know, only this food thing was kind of a problem. You know, I mean, you know, people in Virginia Beach I was talking to, they were complaining about not having enough money to buy a third home. You know, I mean, there really wasn't, you know, there isn't like this devastated economy. I mean, I saw a few homeless people, and I know in Chicago and all this, there's problems with the border, and it's, you know, people are piling up in the blue states. But that's going to get fixed. Already I'd seen some stuff on the news that, you know, like Chuck Todd, he was, you know, he's a major, you know, left-wing news reporter, news anchor man, like kind of like, you know, a strong left-wing version of Walter Cronkite. You know, I would say he's a modern day that, you know, and he's saying Biden is showing poor leadership. Democrats, hopefully they're smart. They would react to that if someone inside their own circles is talking like that. So, and already I saw they're starting up the wall again, the border wall. So I think these problems are solvable. They're even solvable within a few years. You know, if they take some strong action, you know, create a democratic immigration process that's fair and everyone stands in line, gets background checked. You know, we deport people who break the law, you know, just like they do in Europe. I really don't see why we can't have an immigration system like they have in Norway or Sweden, you know, where they actually check people, and not so much in Sweden, but they let a lot of bad people get through. But definitely in Norway, definitely in Denmark and Finland, they're checking people, and they are doing deportations. I mean, I even heard Sweden does deportations if you break the rules. Even as sloppy as they are in Sweden, they do have a system and a process and rules, and you know, they know who's all in the country. You know, there's very few people living in the shadows. I mean, they actually do get a number and they get tagged and tracked. You know, so we need some of that in America as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty optimistic. I mean, of course I was having all these thoughts about moving back, and there's all these things I could do. I have this VA loan. And you know, I'll tell you, the housing thing is a myth too. Because right in Virginia Beach, nearby the ocean, there were 3 or 4 properties under $300,000, which is very doable on a double income. You know, 2 people even working non-professional jobs. You know, I mean, a husband and wife working in restaurants or bars could swing that. You know, they could work so hard for 3-4 years, save up, you know, a down payment. If they work together and live frugally, they could save up a down payment of like 10%, get an FHA loan, you know, and they could swing that. It would be hard, but it's doable. And if you've been working like 5 or 10 years, or you got a professional job, you know, you're earning $100,000 a year, which is now par for the course in America. That used to be a big salary, but I noticed like a lot of jobs, you know, that are professional, where if you have an engineering degree or you have any kind of like MBA or, you know, project manager certification, or you're a developer, IT person, doctor, nurse, for sure doctor, definitely nurse, tech, med tech, you know, you're earning $100,000 a year. You can easily get a mortgage for you know, 300,000 property. And these are not small places. They're like, by European standards, they're pretty good. I mean, one of the apartments I saw that was like 250,000 was like right on Pacific Avenue. It's literally like 8 minutes, like even 4 or 5 minutes, you got your feet in the ocean. That was 60 square meters, 600, 700 square feet. Then there was like a small townhome, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, you know, 1,200 square feet, like 110 square meters. I mean, 110 square meters is big here for Ukraine. I mean, and I mean, these didn't need much renovation. I mean, you probably need to put some 20,000 into each of them, you know, but you could move in right away. They weren't unlivable. They were just, you know, old. But they just needed some updating. But you can do that while you live there. Like every month you do some small project, and over 1 or 2 years you got a great place. So I mean, and in Wilmington, Delaware, I wasn't down there, but in Princeton I even saw some places around 400, and the salaries are much higher in Princeton. You know, you could buy a condo or something in the 4s, low 5s, which, you know, Princeton is a professional town. That's within reach. You know, if you've been working a couple of years, and if you're a husband, wife, that's definitely doable. But I think the housing crisis in America is like, everyone wants to live in like a really nice neighborhood in a really big house, and if they don't get what they want, if they don't get this like 3,000 square foot McMansion in like in a well-to-do neighborhood, you know, good school district and all this thing, then there's a housing crisis. But what they can do is they can move into like some lower cost housing, maybe in a lesser neighborhood, and they can get on the school board and bring it up. That's what you know, there are a bunch of Indian families did this in Bolingbrook, Illinois. It's like a shady suburb of Chicago, but there was just nowhere else to live, and a lot of Indian people moved there. And after a while, Bolingbrook High School had some of the highest math scores in the state. And I mean, this was like a school with like guns and shootings, metal detectors. You know, it was predominantly African American, but it can be done. So I don't know, people just have to get creative, because I don't even see the housing, you know, shortage really. I mean, you just need to kind of lower your expectations. I mean, you know, yes, it's not the good old days where everyone could get a McMansion for $100,000. But if there's a will, there's a way. You get in there, you start making your payments, you know, you eventually pay it down, you save up money for the next house, you know, you do a side hustle, you know, you can do it. You know, it's still there. I mean, you can even still live by the beach in America for, you know, for not so much money as you think. It's not $1 million, you know, to do that. So, let me see, I better cross the street. This is the most dangerous thing we do in Ukraine, is cross the street, at least in Lviv. Yeah, but anyway, that's all I got. You know, I just want to keep these essays a little short. Yeah, so I'm back in Ukraine, working on my projects. Thanksgiving is next week. I'm still working on my Princeton video. I saw a lot of cool stuff in Princeton, New Jersey, and I'm just going to do a highlights video and piece it together. I got a lot of footage, so I decided just to put that together into a 9 or 10 minute clip. But anyway, take care, have a good day, and see you next time.